Hello, welcome to Connie Martinsen Talks Books. In all of this wide, wide world of many, many religions and people, has it ever dawned on you how many different versions there are of heaven? Well, my guest today, E. King, has written Dirk Quigby's Guide to the Afterlife. All you need to know to choose the right heaven. It's published by Exterminating Angel Press. Welcome, Evie King.
Thank you so much.
And truly, Dirk Quigby is quite a character working for an advertising agency called Pesky and Pesky. And he has a lot of people over him. But he's now been told you're going to be doing travel books.
Right.
And in doing it, he starts to watch TV and he sees and hears about travel and a strange sort of book about if you go, you will find out about this. And suddenly he sees a man who looks like Cary Grant. And he says to the man, "What is your name?" And he says, "My name is
Lucifer,
which means he is.
the devil.
And he offers our friend Dirk what?
Well, it seems that nobody even tries to go to heaven anymore, and hell is so overcrowded, it's no more fun to run. So he offers Dirk a chance to go back and forth to all the different afterlives if he pens him kind of a Zagat guide to the different heavens and tries to sell it so that hell will be less arduous to run.
And he never quite knows when he's going to go.
No, it's always a shock. He's always dragged into a Kleenex box or into a cigarette lighter or something.
And the first place he goes is Egypt.
Egypt.
And what does he find in Egypt?
Well, he finds that it's not that bad, it's not that great. It's kind of good if you like caving, spelunking, because it's dark, it's underground. But in Egypt, after you pretty much only the pharaohs can get there because it's a very expensive process. And once you get to a certain point, your heart is weighed on a scale against a feather. And so if your heart is heavier than the feather, you get eaten by, I think it's a hippopotamus crocodile mix, because those are the scariest animals around. And you die, and if your heart is lighter than a feather, you get to stay in the afterlife. So there's only a baby in there.
And of course, they've written a book called The Book of the Dead.
Yes.
Now, at the end of every so-called heaven, you've given it like a Zagat guide.
Right. They have a rating for food, drink, accommodations, entry requirements, and music.
Now, with the Greek, I sort of thought Scrooge, because you get to relive things in life. This whole book is sort of Scrooge.
Yeah.
After the Greeks come, the people who are known as the Jewish Heaven Shmeven.
Heaven Shmeven, yes. God made a covenant with the Jews. He gave them the rules they should live by, and in return, they gave him the tip of their baby's genitals.
Oh.
Jews are often known as people of the book, but many have branched out into television and movies.
Very true. And the 6 ages of man are?
The Jains. And the Jains are very admirable, but it doesn't sound like it'd be a lot of fun. You can't injure anything, animal or people, so you could eat, for instance, an apple or a walnut, but you can't eat a carrot because that kills the source. And you have a veil over your head so you won't inhale any bugs. And there are 6 ages of man in which you get shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter. I think it's kind of a Randy Newman, short people got no business. And finally, you'll get a tall man again.
Uh-huh. So it's Shakespeare, the 7 ages of man, this is 6.
Yes.
I never knew too much about the Jains. Who were they?
Well, they still exist. They're an old Indian sect. There's some discussion about whether clothes, apparently sewing is not good. I guess cloth feels pain. And they wear white clothes. Some of the monks say you shouldn't wear any clothes, but with their diet, I don't think it's really that much of a temptation, actually.
You said the perks. You never have to separate colors from whites
Yes.
when washing, and you'll never get trichinosis.
Exactly, because of course no pork.
Yeah. Now, let me tell our friends in the audience, E.E. King is known as a humorist. She is known as a poet, but I did not know she was a historian.
Well, I really like using fact. Maybe it's because I have partly a biology background, and so I use a lot of that. But when I started, this started out as an idea, and I thought, what a great idea. But once I got into it, I thought, well, I'd have to do a lot of research, and I have to really find out. It taught me a lot about religion.
Revelation. If Catholics don't believe in evolution, why is the Pope called the head primate?
I never did figure that one out, actually.
Yeah. And who is Angelica?
Angelica is Dirk's girlfriend. She works at the agency, and she starts off just as his friend, and one day she ends up with a frog in her throat, and she ends up sounding like this. And so they get involved, and it turns out that she's actually his guardian angel.
Ah. Now, the many hands of God.
The many hands of God is, I believe, Hindu, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Hindus, basically, of course, like all Eastern religions, it's a series of reincarnations. And this life is only a pleasant way station if you're in a high caste. You're more likely to be in a high caste if you have good karma. You're more likely to have good karma if you're in a high caste. This is known as caste 22.
And you come to angels and demons, and you quote Abraham Lincoln. If I were two-faced, would I be wearing this one?
Yes. Well, throughout the book, I kind of deal with, well, one of the big things I deal with is the views of heaven where people say this is the way, and everybody else is kind of burning around them if you're not in that heaven. So the Lucifer and Angelica have a lot of different plays. So it's a question of who is an angel and a devil.
How did you get into this subject?
Well,
I know there was a short story, but even then, the fact of deciding to, as you do in this book, cover the whole rainbow of life and heaven.
Well, I guess it's fascinated me what people believe, and I find, especially coming from biology, I find life itself is pretty weird and fascinating. But the things that people have invented are very, very, very interesting, and the similarities and the differences.
I'm going to ask you to read the 5 pillars of Muhammad's revenge.
Oh, the 5 pillars of Muhammad's revenge. So this takes place with Dirk and Angelica in his apartment. It was a lovely morning. Dirk was cleaning. With Angelica's arrival, his apartment had become a cheery place. She loved fresh flowers and bright fabrics. Dirk didn't always concur with the exuberance of her taste, but he'd never been particular about his surroundings. He enjoyed her happiness. After cleaning, he would run out for breakfast goodies, including chocolate, which Angelica constantly craved. He strode over to the CD player to put in the music to clean by. Beethoven or Beatles, Miles Davis or Marcy Playground. He decided of a collection of oldies that Mary, his sister, had hand-picked and recorded. They always filled him with sweet nostalgia. Smiling, Dirk removed the CD and inserted it. Shwoosh! It grabbed him. He was inexorably sucked toward and flattened through the thin black opening. He awoke surrounded by angry, bearded men holding rocks. Opening his eyes wide in fright, the devil's press pass, firmly burned into his retina, shone brilliantly out. Instead of a stoning, Dirk was given a silk robe and escorted to one of the luxurious couches that were scattered throughout the garden, manned, or, more accurately, womened by beautiful maidens. Their eyes were deep as onyx rivers, their hair soft, smooth, and velvety black, and they positively radiated virginity. Ah, well, Dirk sighed, when in Rome.
And then on the next page, you give the estimate of the place.
Yes. Shall I read the whole thing? Or
just the next page there.
Okay. Dirk Quigby's Guide to the Islamic Afterlife. Getting into Islamic heaven is like being admitted into university in many Asian countries. Elementary, junior high, and high school are brain-hardeningly hard. Only a select few make it into college. But if you do, life is a party. If you die fighting in the cause of God, who seems rather vague about the causes he supports these days, you will get 72 houris, virgins with regenerating hymens, in addition to however many wives you already possess. There is some contention whether all good, pure Muslims will receive such bounty or only martyrs. Quote, the penis of the elected never softens. Erection is eternal. Unquote. Al-Saud, 1505. End destination. Chances are extremely likely you'll be damned and spend all eternity in hell. Judgment Day? Going to be extremely scary, even for the good. Wait in your grave for Judgment Day. If you are good, you get a windowed casket with a garden view. If you are damned, which you probably are, you will have a transom from hell blowing hot air into your tomb. The Quran specifies 2 exceptions to the general rule. Warriors who die fighting in the cause of God go straight to God, and enemies of Islam go immediately to hell. The hadith saying of the Prophet's comparisons say women will form the majority in hell because they are generally ungrateful nags who are never satisfied.
Thank you. How many heavens do you have in this book?
I believe, and I must admit, I don't have a perfect count, about 18?
There are that many.
Oh, there are more. I didn't manage to, I mean, just the Protestants alone branch and branch and branch, and then the Eastern religions branch. I tried to hit the major ones, and then I hit, some of the newer ones, like Nation of Islam was a surprise because it's so different from Islam. I thought they would have some more similarity. Scientology.
What is Scientology heaven?
It's really complicated. Hundreds and thousands or millions or billions of years ago, we were all immortal beings, Thetians, who could control time, space, and never had a bad hair day. But there was an exceptionally evil alien, Xenu, and he controlled the whole intergalactic system, of which TCAC, which is Earth, it was just called TCAC then, was a part. And he was plagued by overpopulation, afraid he was going to be deposed. So with the help of tax auditors, he called in a whole bunch of Thetians on the premise that they would have tax audits, and with the aid of psychiatrists, he dosed them with glycol, and then he taped them to a volcano, which is why there's a volcano on the front of Dianetics, and he H-bombed them. And they went into space, and he caught them in a ribbon and made them watch 36 days of movies, which implanted all these false beliefs into their heads. And most of these don't even have bodies now. So they're called BTs, body Thetians, because they don't have bodies.
All of this from L.Ron Hubbard.
Yes.
Now, L.Ron Hubbard was a science fiction writer.
Yes.
Knew Ray Bradbury and all of our other friends. Did your father know him?
Daddy